Babe of the day. Babe of the day. Lisa Todd, the knockout of TV's Hee-Haw. Lisa is tall, built, and funny. She also got a lot more individual screen time than some of the Hee-Haw honeys. You could put Lisa in just about any skit and it would work. Her birth name is Mary Lee Taylor. That's a nice name too, and I don't think she needed to change it. But Lisa Todd does sound sexy. She was a good height at 5'11", but she had a very light voice. Given her look, you would probably expect her to have a deep, sensual voice, but she's almost chirpy. I absolutely love it. Lisa was born in Santa Barbara, California, only to move to Florida when she was 4, and then to Maryland at age 6. For the most part, she was raised as a small-town girl with traditional values. She was a shy, quiet person from the outset. This conflicted with Mother Nature a bit, because her body matured quickly. By the 7th grade, she was already tall and buxom, and getting called into the principal's office for wearing her skirts too tight. Initially, she was very uncomfortable with being stared at all the time. She came to terms with it, though, and used her looks as a legitimate career. The first thing she did in acting was 2 episodes of the Beverly Hillbillies. She played the German girl, Ilsa, who worked at the bank and could barely speak English. The running gag is that she would say, "Me Ilsa," and Jethro would think that was her name. Right from the start, Lisa dazzled and fit a type that has always been rare to find in Hollywood: hot-looking and funny. Lisa didn't just do comedy, though. Among the funny parts, she followed up the Hillbillies directly with the part in the detective show Ironside. She also appeared in the action thriller The Girl Who Knew Too Much and the TV drama movie The Ballad of Andy Crocker. She appeared in a few movies early in her career that were precursors to what she later did on Hee-Haw. Lisa had an uncredited part in the Western musical comedy Paint Your Wagon in 1969. Later that year, she had another role in the musical comedy Hello, Dolly. A spot on the Jonathan Winters show, though, is what got her spotted by producers for what would be the biggest gig of her career. In 1970, at the start of its 2nd season, Lisa joined the cast of Hee-Haw. This would prove to be fateful. It was the perfect vehicle for any girl who wanted to be funny and sexy at the same time, and she was in good company. She easily became a standout member of the Hee-Haw Honeys. Lisa would stay with the show through 1985, a darn decent run. If you're unfamiliar with Hee-Haw, it's like a hillbilly version of Laugh-In. If you're unfamiliar with Laugh-In, may God have pity on you. Hee-Haw, in fact, amped up a lot of stuff that Laugh-In had already been doing. There were tons of people in Hee-Haw with all the regulars and guests. Comedy skits were intermingled with musical performances. On the surface, it looked old-fashioned and seemed like retro hillbilly, but in reality, it was very current, featuring newer performers among the old, and referencing things that were happening at the time. This was a good place for Lisa to be. In the early years of her Hee-Haw run, she played a character called Sunshine Cornsilk. The idea of the name is that it's not at all appropriate for her. Lisa is darker complected with dark hair. Sunshine pursued Junior Samples, the short, chubby funny man of the show, with no success. Junior may or may not have been aware that Sunshine was hitting on him. If he did know, he didn't care. Junior turning down Sunshine is quite funny in an unlikely scenario. Over time, though, this recurring gag was dropped. Another regular feature was Sunshine's advice to the lovelorn. She would always give advice on how to get a man, although she could never land Junior Samples. Eventually, the Sunshine Cornsilk name was dropped, and she was just called by her regular name like the other girls on the show. Later on, during the news portion of the show, Lisa would play the weather girl. The connection between her and Junior was dropped, and a regular skit would feature Lisa and Grandpa Jones as an unlikely married couple. Grandpa, though, gave Lisa about the same consideration Junior did. Although singing wasn't a talent she regularly showcased on Hee-Haw, I thought she was actually quite good at it. For instance, she did a song called That's All I Want From You. Lisa had a long-term relationship with Buck Owens, one of the hosts of Hee-Haw. They never married. They did, however, appear together in a 1975 episode of the game show Tattletales. In 1977, Buck married Jana Jay, the blue fiddle player on Hee-Haw, for what turned out to be a short and turbulent marriage. He married another woman in 1979. In a 1978 interview, Lisa lamented that she had never married or had children, and that she wished she could have had a solid relationship with one man. Sign me up, baby! Hee-Haw easily secured work for Lisa and all the rest of the cast. She was a get when it came to comedy shows, and although these weren't leading guest spots, she was very noticeable. Early in her career, Lisa knew that she had to know how to take care of herself. Being a pretty girl, even at 5'11", and even in that time period, she had to be careful. Lisa studied Kung Fu and became quite good at it. Then, in 1972, Lisa took on a role that was off-the-wall bonkers for her. However, she did it very convincingly. The movie was called The Woman Hunt. It was an action thriller about beautiful women who got kidnapped and taken to an island only to be hunted for sport. Lisa, however, did not play a captive. She was Magda, the domineering lesbian madam who controlled the girls on the island. Magda was an evil character who met a nasty end. This was so not like Hee-Haw or anything else she did before. But it was a cool bit of acting and an interesting character. Her next movie, in 1973, was the action film The Doll Squad. In that, she played the sexy henchwoman of the main villain, played by Michael Ansara. This was also an unlikely role, but now she was becoming established as a serious actress who played heavies. She also started to get more parts on TV that flexed her dramatic muscle, in shows like Police Story and Kung Fu. In 1975, she played the evil Lilith in the horror movie The Devil's Reign. Later that year, she played a comedic villainess in the kids' show The Ghostbusters. Lisa was Brunhilde, the ghost Viking henchwoman of Eric the Red, played by Jim Backus. She looked good as a tall, blonde Viking woman. After that, acting parts outside of Hee-Haw slowed down. The last thing she did for years outside of her famous show was a small part as young lady in the 1977 drama film 6th and Main. For the next 8 years, Hee-Haw was Lisa's primary concern. In 1985, she left the show. A lot of people left the show around this time. When Junior Samples died in 1983, the show took a hit. He was a huge asset to the show, and to make up for that loss, the show was trying to mix things up with different features and players. A lot of the cast lost interest and left the show. Hee-Haw carried on until 1993, but at the very end, was just a shell of its former self. Her most current role was a cameo in the comedy short film Hollywood's Talk of Fame in 2003. After that, Lisa just dropped out of sight and remains a very private person. I know that's her choice, and she deserves her privacy like everyone else. But it's a shame not to see her anymore. Fans of her work in Hee-Haw and other shows would love it. I'm happy to give her one more credit as a Babe of the Day. Babe of the Day.